And today, guys, we have a lovely guest. But before I do get started, guys, here we do provide solutions to your spiritual awakening. And we do have a lovely guest. She is a Reiki practitioner, a breath work facilitator, a beautiful soul, and of course, a lovely mom as well. So
All the things, right?
she's all up above right now. She's all up above. So today, guys, I want to do get started, Marie. At least, hopefully, we can do a little breath work or some sort of a little session that we can get started on at least.
Oh yeah,
Just to calm the nerves down, just to get this little anxiety out the way, and get into the subject of how breath work can actually change your life and alter your future reality if you can go ahead and escape the course, the egoic mind, right?
for sure. All
Okay.
right. So actually, one little technique that I teach all the time at every workshop, every class, everything I do, whether it's the topic is breath work or not, is this technique. It's called slow rachaka. Like if you want to get into like pranayama names, but really what it is it's a very simple practice that gets you into your present moment, into your body, and it actually triggers your parasympathetic nervous
Mm,
system, so your rest and digest. So most of us are always in fight or flight all the time.
yes.
So this technique you can use anytime, anywhere, anytime you need it, and the more you do it, it'll tone your system. So
Okay.
it's real simple. It's in through your nose for a count of 4 and out through your mouth for a count of 8. And now that may seem like long at first, but if you act like you're blowing through a straw, it allows the breath to slow down and you can get there. And some people may have a hard time with that in the beginning because some of us are really shallow breathers or we're
Yes.
really in the fight or flight. So, if you struggle with that at first, just do your best to like get all the air out and then hold to 8 and then breathe in with the 4. And you'll see after like 2 or 3 of them, you'll be able to get into that cadence. And then you most likely won't even have to count anymore. You'll know what the feeling is of
Okay.
being twice as long in your exhale as you are in your inhale.
Okay.
So let's just take a minute. I'll count them out for us today, but let's do like 3 or 4 of them. We'll count them out. Um, you can close your eyes if you want to, or you can do it with eyes open. It doesn't make a difference unless like you're driving, then please don't close your eyes.
Of
But
course. So one more time.
yeah,
So it's in through the nose. You said in through the nose.
for a count of 4,
Count of four.
and blow out of your mouth like if you're blowing through a straw for a count of 8.
And this helps
Mhm.
relax the nervous system. This helps relax the mind, helps you
Yeah.
get a little bit at ease, release all the negative energy, right?
Yep,
Okay,
brings you
let's go ahead.
present, brings you right here to right now, and then also turns on your parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah, your rest
Okay,
and digest. All right, so let's everybody just, if you are able to close your eyes, if you're not able to, keep them open. It's okay. So we're going to inhale through the nose, in, 2, 3, 4, out through your mouth, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, slow, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. In, 2, 3, 4. Then really slow, calm out of your mouth. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
well,
Usually you do a few of those. Like when I do them now, I get like super like in that
yeah,
zone.
because
But I've been
it helps
doing it.
escape the mind, right? It helps you escape the mind actually.
Yeah, it calms
Hey,
everything down.
hey, Chief, how you doing, guys? Welcome back. So, hey, guys, everybody who's on the live chat right now, guys, I do want to say, guys, thank you guys for participating, being on here today. And the purpose of this live, guys, is to actually help others like myself, man, who are going through the spiritual awakening, through this journey of understanding self and knowing thyself. And a quick little thing that I do want to mention, just because I speak of this or anything doesn't mean I'm a perfectionist or know it all when it comes to this. That's why I have Marie here to help me out and guide me as well in regards to the benefits, the health benefits, and the attachment that it has to spirituality, like how the breath actually gets you in tune to who you are, your true essence of your divinity. So, with that said, we can get started. So, if you don't mind, share a little bit about yourself, Marie. A little bit about your breath work. How'd you find it? How'd you get started with this? And we'll go from there.
Sure. So, my name is Marie Gonzalez. The name of my business is Heart Nectar. So, I try to do everything from a loving, nurturing space. I have been practicing breath work now, actually, for, yeah, like a little over 2 years. So, I found breath work in July of 2021, which,
Okay,
yeah. So,
it's
I
recent,
had
so it's
never
kind of
really
recent.
heard of it. I had done yoga before, so I knew like, oh, if you bring your focus to your breath, like it can help you with different things, but I did not understand the levels to it until I had my first somatic breath work
Mm,
experience in July of 2021. So in that experience, I actually was able to feel in my body, to feel energy shifting and moving, and to feel a release in my body that I had never felt before. And I knew, because I was coming out of a traumatic and abusive relationship, I knew that
understand.
there was like things in my body
Hmm.
that I didn't want them to be there anymore, but I didn't know how to move them. So, universe guided me to this challenge that I did, and one of the days was a breath work. So that's when I like really discovered it and
And that was
found out.
somatic breathing, right? That was somatic
Yeah,
breathing.
and that was somatic. That was more of a journey. That was probably about 45 minutes. So we'll kind of go over that too, because there's different
That's what I
types
want to
of
touch on
breath
too.
work.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's different techniques that you can do every day, all day. There's some techniques that maybe you should only do like once a month or twice a month, depending on what you're working through. But that's what birthed my knowledge or my excitement into breath work, was that experience. And then from then on, I would do it myself like once a month. And then I started learning different techniques.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, because I had no idea that your breath, one, could help you on a spiritual level, but also help you on an energetic level, and then help you just with your overall health. So
Hmm.
depending on what you're working on in your life, and even if it is multiple things, you can use your breath to help you with those things, even with depression, anxiety, anger, um, all the things, all the
Yes.
emotions.
Yes.
You can use your breath to either help shift them or to help accentuate them, right? Because if we are nervous or experiencing anxiety, the way we breathe actually accentuates it, right? Because
Yeah.
then
It
when
goes
you're anxious,
shorter.
you
Hmm.
get tight, you're short of breathing. So you're making that feeling larger in your body. But if you can be aware of it, and then bring yourself back to that present moment, bring yourself back to your breath, you can pull yourself out of an anxiety attack or out
Yes.
of a depressive state. So it truly is amazing, and I like geek out on things now because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, did you know you could do this?"
Yes.
Like,
It's
I
because
remember when I
conscious.
found out you could have like an energetic orgasm from breath work, I was like, "What?" Like, you can
Yes.
do that? Like, there's so many things that you can do with your breath that it is just it's
It brings
amazing
you
and it's
like
fascinating.
Oscar was saying, a guest of ours, some of my friends was saying that it actually brings you back to the present moment. It's what it's actually doing for you as well, because a lot of the times, man, like especially you mean as you're going through your spiritual awakening, as you're going through your dark night of the soul, a lot of us don't understand where to start or where to begin with. And like for yourself, you said you had a calling for this, and the same exact thing with me, myself personally as well. When I first started this journey, it was like, where do I start? where do I go with this? How do I get in touch with this divine power, this spark that we have, that these people talk about, or what these hermetics talk about, or what these ancients or wisdoms talk about? How do I get there? How do I activate the third eye? And obviously that's when me personally, I kind of found just the breath. And one thing though, when you get involved with the breath, there's so many there's so
Mhm.
many different types. And one thing I want to go back to what you were saying as you discovered it, because I also tried it as well, which was somatic breathing, right?
Mhm.
Somatic breathing. And do you mind jumping into that a little bit more, just a little bit, describe how that actually works for trauma release? Because I
Right.
do know that our body, right? Our body keeps track of trauma. It keeps track of it stores it. So
Mhm.
sometimes these energetic blocks can stay in your body, right?
Yep.
So exercising somatic breathing, like you're saying, and not all the time, because last time me and you we had a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you mind diving into that a little bit more?
Sure.
Just how that releases the trauma from the body and stuff.
Yes, and whoever just said that, The Chosen 144, The Body Keeps
Yes.
the Score. Yes, that is an amazing book. It's a little bit on the science heavy side, so sometimes it could be a little tough to read, but if you can get through that, you'll learn how your body stores energy. So what happens is when you experience life, right? Whether it's good, bad, it's irrelevant. It is what it is, right? When you are experiencing life, your body is keeping score. It's keeping track of all these
Yep.
feelings, all these memories, all these thoughts. But what happens with trauma is as soon as you are in a traumatic experience, and this could be a car accident, it could be a fist fight, it could be an argument, it could be a rape, it could be it could be something super severe, or it could be something maybe a little less life threatening but still traumatic to
Even from
you.
past, right? Even from the
Right.
past, like.
Yeah. So what happens is when you're in these states and you are in the current time of experiencing it, when it's too much for your brain or for yourself to comprehend, your brain will scramble this memory and then store it in your body.
Mm,
So what it does is it's almost like when you go into shock, or in order for you to be in survival mode, this is what your body does. So it takes that thought, it takes that happening, takes that experience, and it splits it up and it stores it in your body.
okay.
This is why some people experience a lot of lower back pain, or maybe some people have a lot of pressure in their chest, or
Mm,
for women, a lot of us carry heaviness and tension in our womb spaces because that's our second heart. So that's where we hold all of our deep rooted traumatic experiences. So what happens is,
the root, like the root chakra, right? The root
yeah, like
chakra.
the root chakra, yeah. So that's where we end up holding as women. And then everybody else, it's different, So you may realize, like, oh, I always have this ache or this pain or this discomfort here. And really, what it is it's
Yes.
trauma that's stuck in your body. So, what somatic breath work does is it puts your body in this state, one, of presence, but two, then it's increasing the amount of oxygen that you're getting. And it is almost like flushing the system, right?
Yeah,
So
it is.
you're flushing all this oxygen, all of this energy in. It's very intentional, it's very present. So then you're able to feel, where do I feel tension? Where do I feel tightness? Where do I feel maybe a void, right? Because sometimes our blocks feel like voids, like I feel like
Hmm.
I can't connect to my full body. So when you do the somatic breath work, it will break down those barriers and actually release that trauma. And what is also important about that is that most somatic practices have rounds of breath. So you may
Okay.
be breathing at a very higher, fuller pace for like 5 to 10 minutes,
Yes.
depending.
Hmm.
So, like for me, it's different. If I'm working with someone, I can feel their energy. If I feel like they're at a place that like they're good, I will do a breath hold. If I feel like they're still moving something, I will let them move it. So that's about being present too as a practitioner. Because not everybody's the same. And you can't just be
Yeah.
like, oh, it's 5 minutes, it's this. No, everybody's different. So
Yes.
when you can feel into that, you breathe and breathe, you allow that energy to build, and then you breathe all the way in and you hold. And the
Yes, that's
breath
my
holds a
favorite
where
part.
the
That's my
magic.
favorite part.
Yeah,
Yes. Go
that's
ahead.
where
Go
the
ahead.
magic happens because that's the stillness. There's no breath.
Mm,
There's nothing except you and your heartbeat.
presence. That's it.
And when you can get to that place and you can be still and you can be present, then all the things, the thoughts, the memories, that's when they can reveal themselves. And sometimes it'll feel like you are experiencing everything, and sometimes it'll feel like this deep void of
Yes.
like just bliss and just
Peer
peace.
awareness. Peer
Yes.
awareness. That's what it is.
Mhm.
That's what I realized. It's literally peer awareness because you're blissed out. You're not worried about the past. You're
Mhm.
not focused on the future. Your body actually thinks that it's dying. And then, like somebody else said right here, um, our body holds trauma from past lives as well because it's in you. Like, you have your ancestral trauma that comes in. That's what I realized. But let me just because I can't focus if I have all these chapters. So 1 second. Yeah, because I'll start reading them. So I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna just turn it off for 1 second for myself at least. Um,
It's okay. It doesn't bother me, so you
It
can.
bothers me. Yeah, I'm gonna just because for me, I get distracted. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel.
Yeah.
It's a distracting mind. But yeah. So when it comes to the somatic breathing, I tried it out with Aaron Dowdy. And
Mhm.
where I met you at. That's where I
Yeah.
met you at. Is in that moment, and what I realized too is like my body shakes. Just like right now, I was doing that little breath work with you. I felt my body shaking. So when I'm feeling my body shaking, it's because it's that tension, it's that nerve, it's that heaviness that you have in you. And
It
when you
wants to
try
come
some,
out.
yes. So when you try somatic breathing, one thing that I realized, my lips start tingling, my hands start tingling. Like
Mhm.
I'm just like, whoa, what? It's a natural high. It's
Mhm.
literally a natural high. And at that moment, like you're saying, like me, I've done some shadow work, I've done some inner healing about my own inner child and everything. So when it came to try the somatic breathing, the first time I felt it. Like I didn't even know why I was crying. Like toward the end of it, I was crying. And I think what it was when Victor Odo, Victor Odo, when his
Mhm.
wife came out, and she started singing. Once she
Mhm.
started to sing, like, oh my God, like I just felt like, I don't know, it was just like a release. I just started crying.
Yeah.
Not a crying like, oh my God, I feel bad. It was just more like tears of
Mhm.
joy, of release, and I'm like, wow, this shit actually works. Like it actually does work
Yeah.
because when you start your journey, Marie, at least when people like myself, like meaning when I mean people like myself, guys, a freshly awoken person, man, because I'm no different than anybody else who's watching now. I'm no different than anybody else. I literally started to understand myself just recently. The past, I call it the great awakening of 2020. Like that's when it happened. The first year, all purging, just traumas, releasing, just understanding myself, and bringing awareness, taking accountability, and then like the second year is when I started to find breath work because I'm telling you, like I wanted to, like, why am I always thinking? Why am I always racing here? Why can't I just be present? Why am I always worried about something else? You know what I mean? Why am I still repeating the same story? Because
Yeah.
that's what it is. You're repeating your same story over and over. So that's what you keep on manifesting into your life. So what breath does, what I've realized, because when if you're normally we're breathing every day, we're just breathing normally, right? Like we're just breathing subconsciously. So when you start to bring awareness to the breath, once you start to see how I am breathing, that's when you start to realize, like, oh shit, there is awareness there. Oh shit, I'm aware of my thoughts now. And it takes practice. It's not going to
Mhm.
happen overnight. To me, it
Yeah.
didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But what that did was just bring awareness. Because normally, and if you don't mind actually touching on this a little bit more, is how what's actually one of my questions is like, how is breath work, how is breath work connected to spirituality? Like how is those two combined? And then we'll get into the little like the health benefits and the
Yeah.
physical benefits. But I really want to touch on that part because people ask me all the time, how do you activate the third eye? How do you get mental focus? How do you get clarity? How
Mhm.
can you see through people? And it's to me, and I always say it's through the breath. Now, I don't have the words to articulate it like you, of course, but so that's why I want because I want people to see, man, like that it works, man. It's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. It really works.
Yeah.
So
So
if yeah,
just to touch on it a little bit more of how, because really your breath is the bridge between the mind and the body, but and then from that to spirit, right? And when you do different breath techniques and do the holds, you can actually release DMT. And DMT is normally released at birth and at death. So it's believed to be the chemical that
mm,
opens the gates between realities, between worlds, and your body creates that on its own. Like you're meant to experience it. Now, you can get DMT outside of your body and have these altered state experiences, but how amazing is it that you can do it yourself in your own home, out
yes,
in nature, out by yourself, or even with a group of people, right? Breathing in a specific pattern and getting to this breath hold, it literally feels like you bust wide open. And it's like then you become the light and you realize that you are a creator, you are
source,
creation.
yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
it's so beautiful and it exists within you. It's not outside of you. So the breath is that link. That is the link between and the bridge
Hmm.
between the mind, body, and the soul and creator in creation, right?
I call it God.
That
I call
exists.
it God level. I call it the God level
Yeah,
because it's because we're leveling up, man. That's one
yeah.
thing that we're always leveling up. So it's a connection to God level because
Hmm.
that's because people like people especially who watch this channel, they're always like we're not God or we're just this, they're waiting for someone to come and save them, and it's like,
Hmm.
no, man, like we are a fractal of that light. And that's one thing I want people to understand. This is something that I'm understanding at the moment. I haven't figured it all out yet. I'm still getting it. I'm still understanding that part. But that's the difference between you and I. I'm just one step ahead. That's all it
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
So the thing is today, guys, what I want people to get out of this is the breath is going to be your way. And also, because I want you to continue, but it's coming to me. It helps induce meditation
Hmm.
because I can stay still. Like as it is, I have a hard time staying still or staying focused. So one thing that I realized, I just want to touch on this real quickly, and maybe you know about it. It's called diaphragm breathing. Like
Hmm.
like it's the diaphragm, and I recently learned it, and it's called the fog the mirror method. The fog the mirror. So it's like when when you breathe, you have that, so that how it sounds heavier, how it's because it's coming from your diaphragm. So when
Hmm.
you're breathing, but you're also going to breathe it back in. And then you try it though. And when you start doing that and you're focusing on that breath, it sounds like the ocean. And when
Hmm.
you start focusing on that part, it helps. This is what I'm figuring it out. Like I said,
Yeah.
this isn't, don't say, oh, Johnny, man, this and this. No, no, it's literally that's what I'm figuring out. And
That's
every
actually
person,
called ocean breath. So as you were
okay,
describing it, I was like, "Oh, that's ocean breath. I know that." But
okay,
because it's you're pulling oxygen in a different way, which also shifts the way that the breath affects the body. Because if you're breathing in through your nose, it does one thing. If you're breathing in and out of your mouth, it does
hmm,
another. So there are these little tidbits
different
that
ways.
go through
Yes,
there.
yes.
Yeah. So when you are breathing with your diaphragm and fully in, that's it. You're breathing fully in. You're fully inhaling, which on a full inhale, that allows you to be inspired and to feel all the things, right? Because you're allowing yourself to open and to breathe fully in. And then on that exhale, when you fully exhale and you release and you let it
Mm,
all go, that's also about letting go and forgiveness
yes.
and release. And some of us struggle with one or the other, and some of us struggle with both, where it's just real shallow or it's a lot of mouth breathing. Um, the mouth breathing isn't helpful to you.
A
That
mouth breather. I call them mouth breathers, meaning like my
yeah.
family. I call them they're mouth breathers because they're just all they're just like they don't even know. And that's what I'm talking about. People walk around not even understanding how they're breathing. They're not even paying
Mhm.
attention to it. And people, and if you think about it, the breath is the first thing you're gonna do when you come into this world, and the last thing you're gonna do when you come out of this world. It's
Yep.
the breath. So if you
Yep.
start to get in touch with your breath, and not to mention the breath is also in touch with your emotions. It come
Yep.
one in one. So if you can master the breath, you can master your emotions. You're gonna stop reacting. You're gonna start seeing. You're gonna start being the observer, not passing judgment. You start
Mm-hmm.
living through a different way. It's like a different way of being. It's really what it is. Because when you're doing diaphragmic breathing, that's more the from what I'm understanding, that's more the natural way of breathing. It's more the
Hmm.
natural way because we're no, we're disconnected from the breath.
Yeah.
We're just living. We're just existing. We're not even living. So when do you want to add a little bit more or something? I'm gonna go back to the live real
Um,
quick.
I felt like what were we talking about there? Like how it
We're
was
talking
related to
yeah,
spirituality.
because yeah, like because how it engages you to just to your higher self, like
Mm.
because
Oh,
it's
yeah, I know
go
what
ahead.
I wanted to say about
Yes.
that. It's your breath brings you to the present moment. That's truly the essence of what it does. And it allows you to be still. And it allows you to get comfortable with silence. A lot of people are uncomfortable with silence, especially
Mm.
like if you notice if you're ever like sitting with
That's
someone
me.
like
That's me. That's
right
me.
like but that's because you're not present. You're very busy right here. So even though your body may look still and relaxed, your mind is like, I'm over here and this happened and that happened and this could happen and what am I going to say next and what am I going to talk about and what am I going to do and what is this person going to say, blah, blah, right? It's like that is fight or flight all the time. All this stimulus, all these things, da 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 da. I mean, and just saying it now, I'm
No,
like,
yeah, yes.
oh my goodness, right? It makes you feel like you're spinning out of control.
Yeah, believe me. Yeah, yes, yes.
So with that, and even you, like you understanding that and being aware of that now, if you start
Mm-hmm.
doing that slower chaka that I taught at the beginning, if you start doing that throughout the day, you're gonna realize, like, even in a week, maybe two, right? If you're really focused and intentional with it, you will notice a major difference in your level of presence and calm. Now, me, I
Mm.
didn't realize I was always in fight or flight, but I was always in survival mode. For 4 years, I was in a relationship where it was just like, you know, I was always on guard and always wondering what was going to happen. Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to do this? And what, right? All the time. And so when I was out of that relationship, yes, the stimulus was removed, but it was still right here.
Mm.
And when I started doing that breath work, I would just do it throughout the day. So I'd be like washing dishes and I'm in through my nose for a count of 4, out of my mouth through
Yes.
a count of 8. And I would just do it. Right. And you figure you can do 5 of those breaths in 1 minute. So if you're doing 15 of them, that's a lot. That's only 3 minutes. If you do that throughout your day, you will start
That's
toning
perfect.
your nervous system. And when you tone your nervous system, you take it out of fight or flight and you stay in rest or digest. And at first I didn't even know what was happening. I was just, okay, I'm going to do this breath work. I'm going to do this, right? And then what happened is I was triggered and I felt the shift in my body and I was like, "Oh shit, that's what it feels like when you move into fight or flight." But I was like, for
Yes.
the longest time I was always there. So then something stimulates you and it's just like, "Ah," right? It
Yeah, you
just,
don't even notice it. Yeah, you don't even
yeah,
notice it. You're
because
just
you're already
reacting.
there. And then you're already agitated, you're already
Mm-hmm.
irritated. So when you use that breath pattern, which everybody just please just do that. Just a couple minutes every day
No, yeah.
while you're driving, while you're on the toilet. It doesn't freaking matter. Whatever you're doing, just do 4 or 5 of them at a time. That's not even a minute out of your life or about a minute out of your life. That's it. If you do that, you start training your body. Oh, we're chill. We could relax right now.
Yeah.
Then you start to stay like I am chill all the fucking time, all the time.
You are
And
actually.
because I have 5 kids, so trust me, it is like sometimes, right? Where you're just like you
Marie,
can't
yes,
handle
five,
anything.
five. I
I have
thought
5.
three. I was thinking three. I'm like, there's always one growing. There's always one more coming out. But
Yeah,
okay, okay, five. Wow,
the
man.
The littles are usually with me. And that's my youngest three. They're always like
Okay,
watching me.
okay.
The other two are a little bit older, so they're kind of like, Mom's weird.
Yeah, that's kind of my son. So going to that, because that sounds, I'm gonna segue into that, is how do you, add conscious breathing, breath work. I call it conscious breathing, by the way. People ask, like, why do you call it conscious breathing? I'm like, because to me, with my way my mind works, anything with work, I try to avoid. So I call it conscious breathing. But how do you incorporate conscious breathing in your day to day life or in the morning? Like you're saying, because you were giving examples of doing dishes and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And like I've been trying the diaphragmatic one. I've been doing the just because I want to
Yeah.
get used to it. But I'm gonna try that one. You know what I mean? Which is like whole 8 seconds in, right? Or is it nine?
No,
9 seconds.
in for four through your nose, and that's the sweet spot that you have to pay attention to. In your nose for four, out of your mouth for eight. Breathing through your nose increases nitric oxide. It's the most potent antioxidant. Your body creates it. You don't fucking need it from outside of you. Like your
Yeah.
body is literally designed. It's such an amazing piece of technology, and we just have forgotten how to use
Yes.
it. But
Yes.
yeah, in for through the nose for four, out of the mouth through eight. You can do it anytime, anywhere. Like I even have like some clients where they're really stressed out at their job. They can't stand their boss or they
Mm-hmm.
have to do this meeting. And I tell them, do this breathing. Excuse yourself to the bathroom, go sit in there and do the breath work. Or while you're in the meeting, bring yourself back to that breath. Nobody's going to know what the fuck you're doing. You're not like sounding out, you're not humming, you're doing it to yourself, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And what it does is it brings you into this chill, present state where you're open to listening to what's around you, but also letting go of whatever triggers are coming up, whatever irritation is coming up. It's just flowing through you. So now you're able to respond instead of react,
Mm-hmm.
because
Perfect. You said.
response is a calculated, like, I don't want to say reaction, is a calculated movement, right? Versus reaction is just like, this is a stimulus, this is what I do, right?
You're
Someone hits me,
responding
I'm gonna
from
hit
your,
them
yeah.
back, right?
You're
Versus
responding
like,
from your higher self. You're not responding
exactly.
from the trauma self. You're not responding from the egoic self. You're
Yeah.
responding from your true essence, from who you really are. And a
Yes.
lot of the times, like I'm saying, and that for me was the key to stop reacting, because I was always reacting. Oh, this fool said something. I'm gonna say something right back.
Hmm.
I'm gonna clap right back. So going to what you were saying when it comes to relaxing the mind, um, it's you were saying it's in for eight, out for
No,
four.
in for four.
Okay,
It's
out
okay.
for
It's
okay,
in your nose for four, out of your mouth through
for
eight.
eight. So
Yeah.
the inhale is shorter and the exhale is longer, right?
Yeah.
Because when
Because
we
what
start,
you're doing is you're pushing all the oxygen out of your body. And then when you inhale and you bring it back in, your body is going to send the oxygen where it needs to go. When you're in fight
mm,
or flight, your body is surviving. So if you have a little inflammation over here or you have a little tumor growing over there, your body's like, that ain't necessary. We need all the organs, we need your muscles, we need the things that, like, because we have to fight or flight, right? Like
yes, yes,
if
yes.
your body's in there, your oxygen is just going to like what your body thinks you're going to need right now to react. So when you do that slow breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, what it does is that longer exhale tells the body, oh shit, like we're pushing all the oxygen out. So when you get it in, it goes to where it needs to go.
Hmm.
Then you're
Yes.
increasing that nitric oxide, which is, I mean, it's the most potent antioxidant. So then it's going to start cleaning and clearing. So what ends up happening? Your face starts to look clearer. The
Yes, I heard
blood
about that.
flow gets
Younger.
brighter. Your skin starts getting healthy. Your hair, all these things start getting healthy because you're increasing that amount, and then you're also reducing the cortisol levels. So
Yes.
there's many things in place that are happening, but that's really where it starts, is slowing it down, and then start not starving, but in a way like starving your body of oxygen for a
Yes.
little bit so that your inhale is more is more like meticulously used,
Yeah,
right?
because when people, I want one thing I do want people to understand and see when they do go into that flight or fight mode or into that trigger, because if you're a Heyoka, a high priestess, an empath, you're highly emotional. You're highly emotional. You're reacting, especially with these toxic people around us, family members, whatever it is. So one thing I want you to notice, if when you do get triggered or when something is offending you, notice your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how it shortens. Like you're saying, it shortens the breath. You go into that because now you're reacting. It shortens.
Yeah.
Your voice starts to crack. So by applying this, what you're saying, which is, and then the longer exhale, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually calming the mind. You're bringing yourself present, and then you're not gonna react anymore. You're gonna respond. That's what you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me, right? That's what you're telling
Yeah.
me.
And that's it.
Okay.
And that's exactly it. And then the more you do it, like even when, and the reason why I say do it when you're washing dishes, when you're sitting on the toilet, when you're watching TV, when you're driving in your car, the reason I say that is because your body is seeing, like, oh, like we're doing this and we're chill. We're doing that and we're chill. We're doing this and we're chill. You're giving your body all this new programming. Oh, when we're in
Mm.
this environment, we can be chill. If you're only chill in your room or in your backyard, like, is that real life? No. In reality, we are out in public. We are in stores. We are in traffic. We are dealing with kids. We are at work. So, the trick to doing that is applying that breath in every single environment,
Hmm.
because you can find peace in the chaos, right? Everything could be going fucking wild and crazy around you and da da da, and you could still be chill.
Right here.
And that's what that breath can do for you. And just real quick, someone asked in the chat about using like the breath for chanting. That is kind of like another another level to it, because your sound, your voice is actually your medicine, and your tone, your frequency is in tune for your body. So when you start using your voice in your practice, that's like a next level. And that can also help you get into deeper meditation states and also take you to places where you can actually have conversations like with your higher self, with your spirit guides.
There
But
you go.
your voice brings you to your truth and brings you to your individual potent medicine that's
Hmm.
within you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's another level.
Yes.
And
Yes. Very.
yeah, and it is useful. And what I did was I started learning all the things and I would just implement one at a time. And I would do a chant, and because there's certain kriyas that you can do that are breathing, and certain chants that get you into this state where it feels like it's been hours and it may have only been like 5 or 6 minutes. And
Mm.
that's that state where you realize that time is just an illusion. And like you can have these experiences, and what we humans count as 5 minutes is fucking irrelevant in the
Yes.
spiritual
No,
world.
like you were saying, when our words cast spells, our words literally cast spells. So when you're in that meditated state, this is what I just recently learned as well. It's like, since our words cast spells, and it's so when you're saying something, say if you're saying something negative or saying something bad, spirit is going to come and assist you in that. So if you're speaking negatively, there's going to be negative spirits that are going to come and assist you with what you're speaking. So if you're speaking good stuff, wonderful stuff, and you're speaking for your ancestors to help you as well, they're going to come and assist you, especially when you're in that deeper meditation, because now you're no longer channeling that egoic mind. You're just pure awareness, no
Mhm.
judgment. So yeah, man, that's actually really really interesting. I didn't know about, like, because right now what I'm focusing on normally is how breath can relax you and calm you, and I'm also realizing though you can also use it for manifesting. You can
Oh
also
yeah.
use it. Yeah, that's one thing that because my thing is for me was just calming the mind, quieting the mind, and the one of the ones that I had learned, I would think it was Dr. Huberman. He's like a neural. I don't know what he is, but he it's a double inhale, and a slow exhale. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
that because it's what it's doing when you're automatic like resetting the paras whatever that said
Yeah, the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah.
that
That's the
part.
one
See,
to digest. That's where you want to stay in. That's where you should be in. But most of us are in fight or flight all the time.
so that has helped me big time. Just like say like if I'm getting triggered or saying something, it's that little quick little and then doing it a couple of times and literally like even my eyes start going low because
Mm-hmm.
now you're no longer in that reactive moment. You're present. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're present, that is where you're with God source. That's when you're with your with creator, whatever it is. So it's being able to be in that moment because you're no longer worrying, you're no longer in the future, you're present. And when you're present, that's when you can start creating. That's when when literally your spirit guides will come and start helping and as I'm seeing and as I'm understanding all this stuff. You know, that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that's what I'm trying to say is like I'm not no different than anybody else. Like I'm learning just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But yes, so another thing I was gonna talk about is like because we know that there's like Wim Hof breathing, and I think that's one of the ones that helped me out the biggest. Was because like, where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Wim Hof. You know, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Wim Hof, but he's an older gentleman. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Wim
Yeah.
Hof.
Because
Um,
his breath technique helps you um like if you do that breathing like in
well, that's
cold.
all. It's all. Yeah,
But
it's all
it
because down
all
here.
comes down to presence. Yeah. And
It's
seeing
all.
that one is all the mouth. So that is a somatic practice where it's fully in, fully out, right? Like that's how he talks. Fully
Fully
in,
in, fully
fully out.
out.
So it is, it's bringing you present, but it's also flushing and filling your body with all this oxygen. So when you increase that and you increase the speed, it's invigorating your body. It's shaking shit up. So that those type of practices, those somatic breath work techniques are meant to shake shit up. It's not meant for relaxation. But what ends up happening is when you shake that shit up and then you have a breath hold, you actually feel blissed out,
Yes, you
pure
do.
peace, pure like right? That's the feeling you end up getting. And that's why, because as long as energy is stuck inside of you, you're going to have inflammation. You're going to have aches and pains. You're going to have autoimmune diseases. You're going to be bringing in all these blockages. And it's not just energetic, it affects you physically, it affects
Yes.
you emotionally. You know, like for me, I had real issues with being touched because I was in such a sexually abusive relationship. When
Mm.
I was out of it, like even my kids, just like touching my arm has nothing to do with anything sexual. Just touching my arm would make me feel like I was screaming inside of my body because for so long my body wasn't mine. I didn't have a choice in whether someone touched me, had sex with me, whatever.
Hmm, hmm.
I didn't have that. So when I was out of that stimulus, but I would be touched, I would be like, "Holy fuck." And then I couldn't find my voice. I couldn't find the thing to be like, "Don't touch me," or "I don't like
Hmm.
that," or ask permission. So what I ended up having to do in that situation was just let my kids know, like, hey, when you I love you. I love you with all my heart and I want to give you all the hugs and all the kisses. But when you touch mommy, it makes my body feel like I'm screaming. And this is how I broke it down. Like even to my kids at the time that were, 2, 3, and 4. This is what happens. So when you're going to come sit with mommy, just ask me. Let me know
Okay.
first. And then I said, until I figure out how to fix me, I'm like, I have to have this boundary because I said it makes mommy feel really scared and like really, like, I didn't say triggered, but that's what it was, right? As I
Well,
was
yeah,
being
trauma.
triggered.
It's a trauma in the
Yeah.
body.
So I had to explain that to them. And then breath work helped me shift out of that. And I did the real true somatic journeys once a month for a straight 18 months. And every single month, it was a new trauma, or it was a new experience, or it was a new memory. It was a new thing
There's
every
always
single
layers.
month.
There's always
Yeah.
layers.
And every layer. And then it got to this point where like someone can touch me and I'm straight. I'm good. My kids can love on me and hug on me and it doesn't trigger me. But then then
I'm
where
happy for
it
you, man. I'm happy for you because that's something big to actually come out of, Marie. That's actually a big achievement for you. So I'm proud of you, man. I really am.
Oh, thank you. And what kind of inspired me to like start doing this work was that so many people, and this is men and women, so many people have experienced either sexual or physical abuse,
Hmm.
and then they have no idea why they feel the way they feel in their body because they don't understand it. So that's why I love doing what I do and teaching people that, because then the link is made. They're like, oh, that's why that bothers me. That's why I feel sick to my stomach. That's why I get this deep, like, draining feeling in my gut, or for women, like in your womb, where you feel
You're
like this
bringing that
heaviness.
light. You're bringing that light toward that darkness. So that's
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're illuminating that light. So now when you're bringing that awareness to it, you're healing, man. You're healing
Yeah.
yourself. You know what I mean? And because now you're starting to reframe things. Now you're starting to reword things. Now you're
Mhm.
telling yourself a different story. It's
Yeah.
really what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's pretty a really really beautiful story. I had no idea you went through something like that and how breathwork actually helped you come out of that situation.
Yeah, because what people don't realize is like talk therapy can only do so much. And even me with like knowing when I'm doing a workshop and yes, we're sharing, I also understand that like the sharing is a part of it because it gives voice to it and it allows you to process it. But shifting the energy within you is what's really going to get out of your system, because if you're just talking about it, but it's still staying there, and then
Hmm.
every time you think about it, you're right back in that place, you're not moving it. So the breath work is what helps move it out of your body. And
Hmm.
so now I can tell these stories. I can tell my story. And yes, I can tell it with passion and emotion, but I no longer feel it in my body. Before, when I
Good.
would tell the story, I would feel sick to my stomach. I would feel that deep pain in my womb of just
Yep.
like, man, I was violated so many times. And like, right? I was holding it. And so once I released it, I'm like, now I can share my story and not feel the pain of it. So I have the lesson, but I release the pain. And that's where like the breath work helps with that, right? Because that's the step beyond just talking about it. Because you didn't just talk about it to go through it. You
Yes.
experienced it in your body. You felt the feelings. You felt the terror, or you felt the fist or the fights or the blood or the whatever it was in your trauma. You felt those things. Your
Yep.
body reacted. And then when
Yes.
you're replaying them in your mind, your body doesn't know the difference between a memory and what's happening. So
So
you're
you're
literally
reliving it. Yeah.
living that all
You're
the
reliving it.
time. And it's
Exactly.
one, it's exhausting. And two, then you can't figure out why the hell am I so pissed off all the time? Or why am I always so sad? Why am I always
Yeah.
so anxious? That's why your body is
You're stuck
reliving
on it.
all these
Hmm.
traumas because you don't even allow yourself the time to get still and present. And you
You're not
can start
allowing.
a breath
Yes. Yes.
work with like 5 minutes a day, 3 to 5 minutes. You have that. Everybody has that. I have five fucking kids and I'm a single mom. If I
That was
can
my
find
next question.
5 minutes, everybody can find five
That's my
minutes. So
next
like,
question. What would you recommend for somebody starting new when it comes to breath work? Like somebody who's fairly new to it. And you already talked about this, but I just want to
like
emphasize that a
reiterate.
little bit. Hmm.
Yeah. So for me, what I teach everybody, and I invite everybody to try, is book ending your days, because there is so much that could happen in between your day, right? Like there could be an accident, or there could be a cancellation, there could be an appointment, there could be kids shitting themselves, like, right? Like all the things can happen. And you're like, oh shit, but at 12 o'clock, I was going to do my breath work. Well, now I'm doing this, or now I'm doing that. So if you book end your days, meaning you start your day with
Hmm.
you.
Yep.
Start your day with you and you end your day with you. My practices started at like 3 minutes. now sometimes I'll spend like 2 hours. Now, yes, I realize like everybody doesn't have that freedom. I create that space for myself. And sometimes that means getting up an hour or two earlier than the kids.
Yes.
But I like feel into it. Like, what am I needing today? Do I need peace and quiet? Do I need stillness for a minute? Do I need to journal? What do I need?
You're checking in.
So
You check in with yourself. You
yeah,
check
I
in with
check
yourself.
in. And some days I'm like, bam, drink my cacao, do a little breath work, I'm done. Other days it's like, I just need to fucking sit here and cry for a minute, or I just need to sit here and
Just to
feel what I'm
feel, just to get it
feeling.
all out of my body. Yeah, get it
Yes,
out of your body.
it depends. But bookend your days. Start your day and end your day on your terms. This is your life. You are the only one existing within here. And if you don't take care of number one, like how you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you are really busy and you
You
have a lot of
come
responsibilities,
first. You
you
come
start
first.
with you. And even if it's just like, this is how I started. It wasn't even with breath work, actually. I started, I would get up, I would write 3 things I was grateful for, my intention for the day, and an I am statement. That's how I would
Beautiful.
start. So I'm
Beautiful.
like,
Beautiful.
okay, this is how I want to feel today, right? That was it. And then at the end of the day, I would write my highlight of the day, something I learned, and a reason I loved myself. Because I had a lot of issues with self-love. Like that's why
Mm.
I allowed myself to
Same
be
here.
in
Yeah.
an abusive relationship. On some level, I felt like I deserved that, like that
It's all you
punishment
knew.
or,
It's all. It's
you
because
know,
it's all we knew. It's all we really knew.
yeah.
And what I realized, it's really the subconscious mind. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the subconscious mind seeking what it knows because it doesn't know
Yeah.
any different. And of
Because that's the
course, when
story.
yeah,
That's what
that's
you
it.
tell
So
yourself.
once you start to get to know yourself, once you start to get in touch with the breath, you start to find out who you really are. You start to
Mm-hmm.
bring this value to you. You start to understand and build boundaries. You start to build self love. You start to build relationships with other people. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because one of the hardest things for people to do once they come out of a heartbreak, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's to reopen up again. It's to open up that chakra. But that brings me to I think it's a Japanese saying. It's called mending the heart. If you look up mending the heart,
Mm-hmm.
it's like what the Japanese did is they soldered the broken piece of jewelry or the piece of pot or whatever it was. They
With
solder it with gold. They solder it
mm-hmm.
with gold. So what does that mean? That means you're stronger. So
Yeah.
you heard of it? You heard of it before that
Yeah,
little?
I've heard of that, and I've actually I had a piece of like I had a ceramic little cat that my mom had made and my kids had broke it, and that was actually how I repaired it. I had gold flakes and I
Mm.
sealed it with that because I knew that and I had heard that was how they, and I was like, and then it creates this whole nother beautiful piece of
Yeah, it's
art.
like mending
Yeah.
that's exactly. So it's mending the heart. You mend the heart
Yeah.
with gold by breath work, by getting to know yourself, healing your inner child, healing your past trauma. It's really all about getting to know yourself. And the breath is the way to go. It's gonna induce meditation, it's gonna help
Mhm.
calm the mind. You mean there's different practices. I know we touched on a little bit of them or a few of them, but I mean, I'm gonna try that one. Just try it
Yeah.
out, which is the whole 4 in, eight
Yep.
release. I got it this
Yeah.
time. I got it this time.
Yeah.
4 in.
See, you just needed a couple repetitions.
Yeah, I just gotta get that in the whole programming there, because and
Yeah.
it's really what it is when you go with the breath, it's reprogramming the old self. You're
Yeah.
shedding the old. So, and if you want to release trauma, I'm just reiterating a little bit of stuff that we talked
Mhm.
about. Is somatic breathing. Somatic breathing would be the way to go if you want to release trauma from the body.
Mhm.
There's other one, like I say, the one that I've learned, it's that whole little just a double intake, just that out, just that for me helps calm the triggering or whatever is happening around me just at that moment. You
Mhm.
mean another one that I have here is that it kind of reminds me of the Wim Hof breathing
Mhm.
is the shamanic breathing. The shamanic is just a double inhale with an exhale. So it's a
Yeah, because it's belly, chest, out. So that is having you use your full body to breathe. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean
I go
there
all
are
out, dude, and I go all out. I go
yeah.
all out, man. So like, people, my neighbors here, they're probably like, "That is a fucking crazy guy back there," because I'm like, I'm just
Yeah.
going at it. I'm like, and because I follow this channel. It's called Breathwork Beats. I think it's Breathwork Beats. It's called Breathwork Beats, and they have all types of, and it's a mix match. So it'll have like, which is one of my favorites, is Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire. You know, it's just,
Mhm.
usually you need two hands, but it's like the whole, just all nose. Buddy's
Yeah.
already coming out. It's just all nose. It's just all nose. You know what I mean? From that helps me right away calm myself because you're breathing hard. And then it goes to like the alkaline breathing. There's also
Mhm.
alkaline breathing, which is a, but it's
Which is
it's a
the same
sigh.
technique I was just teaching you.
Yeah,
So they
it's all the same.
repackage them in pretty little names and things, but it's all the same thing. And the reason it's alkaline is because you're increasing the amount of nitric oxide.
Yeah.
So that's what shifts it. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes. So guys, you mean I know we're 55 minutes in. I just want to say thank you guys for the ones who did join. Somebody mentioned Condolini. Um, do you know about Condolini? Do you know,
okay,
can
so
breathwork activate the Condolini? Can
yeah,
breathwork activate it?
and
Okay.
yes, and that's that. Like I said, there's so many levels to this, but if you are looking to activate your kundalini and to have like a kundalini awakening, you can use breath work to do that. And what that entails is on your inhale, right? You're inhaling, and then when you hold, you're actually pulling up your pelvic floor.
Mm.
And so what it ends up doing is it's like using a pump to pump up the spinal fluid up, up, up
Ah,
until it comes, until it opens, until so that type of breathing,
is that part of the third eye activation?
that's like a everything. Oh man, that's actually one of my favorite breath work to do, and I actually
Which
facilitate
one?
that
Which one?
breath
Which one?
work
Which one?
after ecstatic dance because everybody's moving energy and feeling into their body, and then I'm
Mm.
like, bam, I'm gonna help you like explode and move all that shit. But breathing like that, like for some people can be hard because you're not used to pulling up your pelvic floor. I think they also call it like a root lock if you're doing like pranayama practices, they call it a root lock, where it's like it's almost like you're pulling up your sex organs and then you're locking it. So when you're pulling up and you hold like that, it allows that energy to come up. But when
Mm.
you do it in a breathwork practice and you're flowing in through your nose, out of your mouth for a count of two, so it's even, what ends up happening is on the inhale, you're pulling up. Exhale, you're letting go. So this could be tricky for some people. Or if you haven't used your pelvic floor much, you can get tired, right? And then your
Of
body's
course.
just like, I just have nothing else, right? If someone hasn't used their pelvic floor before, the way that you can practice using that is stopping your urine. So while you're urinating, you stop it, and
Wow.
that'll teach you how to use those muscles. So
Okay.
that's like the simplest way to teach people because if not, you're like trying to explain this. And if you don't know what that feels like in your body, you can't comprehend it or it could feel like a struggle. So if that's how you can practice is stopping your urination stream, and that'll help you feel what those muscles feel like, and then you can just practice. And then what you do is on the inhale you're pulling up, on the exhale
Mm.
you're letting go. So if you do breath work like that and then you inhale and you hold and you squeeze,
Yes.
like you're
Squeeze.
squeezing your whole body, you're sending all that force up, and it can create these
Yes. So
amazing beautiful altered states. So
for
yeah,
men as
for
well,
men
guys.
and for women.
Um, especially if you have semen retention. Like semen
Mhm.
retention, that's another whole podcast. But
Yeah, that's a whole
having
nother.
semen retention as well, because you also have that sacred oil, right? I think there's like a
Mhm.
sacred oil that
Yeah.
we do have. So what I've done and what I do like doing is like when I do want to, because somebody asked about activating the third eye or squeezing that third eye, is like I try to do that, like you're saying, it's just visualizing and you're squeezing like your body as you're going up, kind of like a little condolini, but I visualize like a light, and then I just start like in my head, I'm like squeezing the pineal, like I'm squeezing, like just in my imagination, just I'm squeezing it and I'm visualizing like a bright light right here, and for me, it's just it helps me like with third eye activation,
Mhm.
and the biggest thing as well, guys, when you're calming the mind, like I was mentioning on my reel that I didn't even touch on, it should be here, but it's you help listen to your heart because you mentioned that earlier We have two brains. We really have two brains. It's our brain here and our heart. Our heart has little cells, just like our. Well, that's what I learned. Like our brain, our heart has its own little cells, its own little,
Its
things.
own
So when
memories, its own pathways.
everything,
Mm-hmm.
and if you really want to trust yourself, like meaning it's just top your heart. Like your heart is gonna know the answer before your mind does, because your
Mm-hmm.
mind it goes through like an analytical process, egoic mind's in there. But when you're tapping your heart, you're listening to your heart. You mean it's and it takes practice, guys. I mean, it
Yeah.
really does take practice because, especially if you're coming out through like trauma, you're coming out through narcissistic abuse, or you're coming out of just a dark night of the soul. One of the biggest things you're gonna realize is you don't trust yourself. You don't love yourself. You don't
Mm-hmm.
care for yourself. So practicing this is gonna get you to that next level of trusting yourself, making the right choices. It's gonna clear your head. It's gonna clear the clutter, and you're gonna be able to hear your heart a lot more. Not the mind, the heart. That's that whole mind and heart coherence, from what I'm understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Braden, because I follow him, he talks about this a little bit more on his channel. But and another question I have before we do wrap it up, do you want to address maybe any myths, any of these myths or things about breath work that people say? Because sometimes I hear people saying like, "Oh, I'm not gonna activate," because I guess when you do that breath hold, because it's like when I do my breath work, I do the alkaline breathing, and then it's that whole 30-second hold.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody said it activates like cryo, some like in other words, I was watching the comments that people were talking about. So is there any myths like when it comes to breath work? Like, oh, my lips are tingling, I'm gonna pass out, I shouldn't be doing
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, or should everybody just go on their own pace, or what do you think? Or
Um, what I will say is everyone knows their body better than anyone else. So I will say that first. You know your body better than I know your body, right?
yes, of course,
Um, but what I will say is your breath is the key. Your breath is the key to your health, to your enlightenment, to your awareness, to your presence. The breath is always the key. Breath work helps you consciously, right? And intentionally do specific things. If you are feeling tingly in different places, that is energy moving. Some people will experience like they call it oh my gosh, I'm thinking of the funky name. It's called lobster claw. I think it's tinnitus. It's something like that.
it
Where
starts to
your
cramp.
hands your
Mhm.
hands will cramp, and usually that's because there's something that you're holding on to. So,
Mm.
if you are experiencing something that maybe doesn't feel comfortable, you can slow your breath, right? Because even in somatic, if you're doing this heavy in and out, and then you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm fucking gonna pass out. You are in control. You have the gas pedal, so you can speed it up and just fucking take yourself there. Like I'm the
Yes,
type I want to just jump. I
I
want
want
to
to
just
same
jump
here.
in the fire, right? Other people are like, oh, it's starting to get hot. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
It's fine. Everybody
yeah.
is at their
Pace.
own level, their own place. I respect all levels because that's where you're at. And I don't ever push anybody to be like, fuck that, go hard, get in there, right? Because that could just
Integrate that
re-emphasize.
shadow.
Yeah,
Integrate your
right.
shadow.
I'm like, I don't do that. I will meet you where you're at, but I'm also going to invite you to step even just 1% outside of your comfort zone. Because if you always stay comfortable, there's no fucking change. So guess what? Change is going to be uncomfortable. Guess what? You start breathing, you're going to start feeling. You're going to start feeling things. You are going to move shit out, which means other deeper things can move up or more can come in. Or
Mm.
it's a balance of both. You're letting shit out. Oh, now you can bring in more love. Oh, you're letting shit out. Oh, good. Because we got some more shit that needs to come up. This stuff you packed down so deep and put it like in the furthest place of your mind, it's going to move. Energy is movement. Everything is energy, which means everything is moving.
And as you start to
Everything is
move
moving.
that energy, to add to that, as you start to move your energy, you also start to discover your gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you in your past lives or as you grew up, you suppressed that part of yourself, that trauma, whatever it is. So your spiritual gifts are also hidden within that breath. I mean, within that trauma. So as you
Mm-hmm.
start to work that trauma up, as you start to integrate that part of yourself, you also start bringing you're bringing your gifts to light, which is
Yeah.
farsight, psychic mediums or psychic abilities, intuitions heighten. You start to begin to trust. It's just so, and I call these spiritual gifts. Everybody has them, by the way.
Everybody.
Everybody has them. It's just we're not in tune with that part of ourselves. Nobody ever taught us any of this, or at least not me. You mean that's one
You're
thing?
what it is you're not present. That's all it is. Because if you have trauma, but you're still in that trauma space, you're not present. You're still living in what happened to you 15 years ago,
Survival
what
mode.
happened to you 30 seconds ago. So if you're still living in that, you're not present. So really your gifts and all of that is unlocked when you're present, because when you're present, that's when your intuition can reach you. If it's got to go through all this garbage and shit that you have packed in there, you're never going to get the
Yeah,
message, because your ego and all of that shit screams.
your
You're
egoic mind. Yes,
sleeping,
yes,
your heart whispers. So you have to learn to be still and to calm your mind, and that's where the breath comes in.
yes,
That's
yes.
exactly
And,
where
and,
the
that,
breath
that's
comes in.
and that's another one thing too. That like as you start to become more present, you start to see spirit speaking to you, your
Mhm.
ancestors, synchronicities. You start seeing numbers. You start
Yeah,
seeing, this whatever spirit animal that you have.
yeah,
You'll start to see these synchronicities because now you're understanding the divine. You're understanding
mhm,
that pure awareness because breath brings awareness, and that's what it is. It's you are the I am. So
mhm.
you can't, like, and just to touch on, like you said, you cannot start to go to the next level if you have all that garbage in your head. If you're
Yeah,
repeating that same story, you because our mind, our brain has bandwidth. It literally
mhm.
has bandwidth. So if you are still cluttered with that, you're not letting go of the old for the new to
Yeah.
come in, for the
You're
new
staying
to
right
merge
here
in. Hmm.
in this moment of time. This is where I'm at. This is what my life is. I'm this victim, right? But
Yes,
then
the
as soon as
victim
you start
mentality.
shedding that and shifting that, you're like, oh shit, I'm a human having a human experience, and I get to experience all the things. And the reality of it is the deepest, the darkest you've gone is also as high and as blissful as you can go. And that's what's beautiful about us, is we have range. And when we know that we can exist and be in this depth, but still like trust and know that in this depth is going to bring us like our light and our medicine
Yes.
and our
Hmm.
truth out, you stop being scared of it. Because a lot of people are scared to go back into that, but it's like it's not scary, it's
It's because
meant
it's the
for you
unknown.
to learn.
It's because it's the unknown, man. And people, what it is just that the egoic mind, the ego doesn't like change, so it's
Mhm.
gonna build resistance. So when you feel resistance, when you feel change, that's the time to leap. That's the time to go because that's the time the change and transformation is gonna happen. You mean the only way you and this I want to touch on this too because it's like don't be afraid to make mistakes. You need to be able to make mistakes because if you're fearful of making mistakes, then you're gonna stay in the same exact place. You're
You're not
never gonna
even
be able to.
living.
Yeah, you're not even living.
How do you
Oh,
ever figure anything out? Like, you didn't come out the womb fucking running and walking and twirling and dancing. You had to learn all that.
you mean so that's like for me, like that's I'm all about that. I'm all about taking calculated risk. Take a calculated risk, even though I might not know the subject, even though I might not know what it is. But you know what? I'm willing to learn. I'm willing
Mhm.
to open my mind and have it open. And this is one thing that I try telling my son, but it's kind of hard. It's I tell him like he goes, I know, Dad, I know, Dad. I tell him, son, if you are always you know everything, you're losing the opportunity to grow. You're losing the opportunity to learn something new. You're losing the opportunity to see something from a different perspective. Because ultimately, we're all here existing through God, living through God, like living through God's source as a fractal of it, or a him, or whatever you want to call it. We're just experiencing God as through Marie, through Johnny. And that's one thing that I'm understanding myself is like, man, like literally, I am a fractal of the divine, just experiencing this little fractal, this little piece of this moment right now as me, and I'm learning and I'm growing. And as long as I'm able to accept that part of myself and open myself up like that, then I know that people like yourself, Marie, are gonna come into my life and help
Mhm.
me out. You know what I mean? And you're gonna shed the old people. Because that's one thing that I kind of like I had an experience with. was sharing my ideas with somebody, and I was sharing with them like what I had in mind. But when this person started to interject like fear in me, like, oh, Johnny, you should read the book before you do the interview. You don't want to make a mistake. You don't. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what this fucking, like, excuse my language. I'm like, what the fuck is this bitch saying? Like, I seen it coming. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, first of all, it was just a question. But at the
Mhm.
end of it, what I came to the realization was that person, it was their projection onto me. And all they were really doing was highlighting what the fear I already had within me. Because I already
Mhm.
had that fear in me. It's
Yep.
already in me. So when I heard it from somebody else, especially when they're trying to like, plant that seed in you, I was like,
Mhm.
fuck that. And I think I could have handled a little bit different, but I'm like, you know what, man? That was just the one strike, and there was already two other strikes that I already had on them. Because as an empath, we'll go with the flow. We'll let you do what you want to say. I'll let you even think that you have control. You mean if you ask me, I'll let you believe it. That's a dark side of me. That's a dark side of myself. But I'll let you believe, But as soon as you cross that boundary, because Marie, personally, if you were to ask me, hey Johnny, what do you think? Should I go for this? I'm not gonna tell you, hey Marie, don't do it. You might fail. Like
Yeah.
it'll be a fool for me to say that because that's where you learn is when you're
Mhm.
failing. That's when you grow. You mean? So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that before I just wanted to vent.
Yeah.
I wanted to vent a little bit. So
Yeah.
with that said, Marie, I'm not sure if you want to touch on anything little else before we do wrap it up, or we've been going on an hour and 11 minutes, and believe me, man, I can go on for a lot
It's
longer with
so
you,
easy when
especially.
you get into it because you realize that there's levels to it. So sometimes it's hard to be like, oh, we got to stop here. But what I will just invite, because I never tell anybody what to do, the invitation is to start doing that slow rachaka throughout your day. In through your nose for a count of 4, out through your mouth for a count of 8. Just try it throughout the day. If you do that right before you go to bed, you will sleep deeper, fuller, and in a more restorative state. Most of the time we go to sleep with, oh, we didn't get this done, we didn't get that done,
Mm-hmm.
we got to do this tomorrow. My alarm's going off in 5 minutes and 42 seconds, like you're thinking all these things. And so your body's already agitated. So yes, you're sleeping, but you are not restoring. So doing that breath work, do it when you first wake up, do it when you go to sleep. Start with bookending your days. Just do it then. You feel yourself getting triggered or you're bored or you're watching a show, just do it. Teach your body, hey, we are safe in all these spaces. We're safe. There's not like a monster coming to get us. There's not a, a saber-toothed tiger coming, right?
Nothing. You're
There's not
safe.
these
You're
things.
okay. Yes.
Yeah. So then when you start doing that,
A saber
and
tooth
I'm
tiger.
telling you, just a week or 2 of being intentional with that breath, you will feel the difference because then when you are triggered or something does like come up, you'll feel the shift in your body. And then you're like, oh shit, that's what it feels like to be like
And
on
you can
alert.
choose. And you can
Yes.
choose, do I want to react or do I want to respond? And
Yep.
you're gonna, yes, and that's how you start making the change. And when
Yeah.
something somebody said about sleep, real quick, I do want to add this. Yes, because before you go to sleep, especially the last 15 minutes, from what I understand, your brain starts going into theta mode, right? Which is more your subconscious mind is more susceptible to,
Acceptable. Hmm.
there you go, to information. So yeah, and then another one that I always practice it, and I'm gonna get back into it, is replaying your day before you go to sleep as well. Like, just that helps me out in the sense of it brings more awareness of what I did through the day. Like, what did I do through the day? And if I made a mistake or if I argued with somebody, what could I have done differently? You mean, how can I? Because that alone, you're replaying your day. So before you go to bed, you're already like, you already know kind of what to do. And then other one is setting the intention, like whatever it is that you want for the next day, or if you have a question,
Hmm.
spirit guides want to help me out here, please. Stuff, whatever it is, give me more clarity for this answer that I have tomorrow, or whatever. And believe me, you're gonna get these answers. You might not get
Hmm.
it right away, but the more you quiet the mind, and we were talking about this yesterday as well, the more you clean the vessel. That's a whole other podcast. You mean, because a lot of us, we blame other things. We blame the outside. We blame this energy shift. We blame Mercury retrograde. We blame other people. But it's like ultimately, you are the creator of
Hmm.
this energy. Yes, they're gonna have influence over you, but ultimately, you are the one who's gonna either allow it or not. and it's being in touch with the breath. Um, Want to share this real quick. It's like me myself. When I wake up, that's one of the first things. I walk the pooch, I sit down, I relax, and I turn on my. I have it on my playlist in my channel. It's a breath work, and it's usually 10 minutes. It starts with, like I said, Wim Hof. It goes to breath of fire, alkaline breathing. But my favorite part about it is the breath holds. And I want to bring this up because I asked you the question. Like, I'm very good at holding the breath. I can hold it
Mhm.
for a minute or whatever. Like, I'm not an expert, but when it comes to when I exhale, like release and hold, that's where I have the trouble. And you mentioned the other day, maybe it's because of letting go. Maybe that's
Mhm.
probably. And I thought about it, like maybe it is because like I'm afraid, like because at that moment you're like your body starts shaking, you want to get up, you want to move, but it's like trust yourself. So
Mhm.
that was the message that I want to share. Is like the message I got was trust yourself. It's okay. You're not going nowhere. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I just had an out of body experience. I took 3.5 mushrooms of mushrooms. So I had a little experience. I had a what do they call it? I was astral projecting. Like I never astral projected, but I had an out of body experience. I was like, oh shit, am I dead? Am I
Mhm.
dead? Is at least I'm conscious. Like at least I'm conscious floating around. But no, man, I had an audit. Like it was like, man, it was so crazy because like I felt I figured out the world. You mean because like out of that mystic experience that I had was you are everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody you are meeting is you. So what you see in others exists in you. So like that just screamed at me. You know what I mean? As I got out of that experience. I don't even know why I'm sharing this, guys. It's 116. We're talking about the breath here. Let's stay focused, Johnny. Besides that, Marie, you
You
want
were
to just take us
watching the
out?
show. It's all good. That
Do
was
you?
your message that you needed to receive today or to share. It's all good.
Um, there's so much more. I have like 3 pages of breath work stuff. So
Yeah.
we're gonna continue
Well,
some other day,
yeah.
maybe.
I mean, there's so much more we could talk about because we only talked about one technique really
Yeah.
today. Well, I
So
mean, a little bit about somatic, but yeah, there's so much difference and there's so many different techniques and um it really helps you get to learn yourself too because then you figure out what works for you and what doesn't, and what works for me won't work for everybody else, and what works for another person won't work for me. But that's the beauty of this experience, is that
mm-hmm.
we get to pick and choose like what we do. And I will say
Yes.
too, if you want to level up that slow rachaka, you can go in through your nose for a count of 4, out of your mouth through a count of 8, and hold for 8 seconds.
Oh.
So if you want to level it up, you can do that. Um, and then I just wanted to touch real quick on the difference between holding on your inhale and holding on your exhale. So
There you
holding
go.
on your inhale, right? It fills you up. You're so full. You're feeling all these things. Any breath hold is going to help with inflammation in your body, which is why they're so amazing to do. But holding on your inhale, like the major difference that it does is it helps activate stem cells in your body.
Mm.
So when you're able to fully inhale and you're able to hold, you can activate that within your body. When you're holding on the exhale, what you're doing is you are putting yourself in a oxygen deprived environment, right? So
Yes.
you're
Yes.
taking
Yes.
all the oxygen out. And what that does is when you do inhale, it allows your body to send the oxygen where it needs to go.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that's why it is super important to do. It is normally, I would probably say like 9 times out of 10, it is usually harder for people to hold on the exhale than the inhale. And
Okay.
that has to do with a lot of things, emotional,
Whew.
mental,
I thought
but
it was
also
me.
with your body, right? So you hold on that exhale, and what you're doing is your body's like, oh shit, we don't have oxygen. So then it'll start
To
talking to
panic.
itself like, where do we need it?
Yeah.
Where
It's
does
a
this
panicking.
need to go? And then when you inhale, it'll do this. And then this is really good. Like, if anyone has like, and I don't want to say a fear, but if anyone is like trying to prevent, right, cancer in your body, breath holds are so incredibly helpful for that, especially holding on the exhale, because it puts your body in an alkaline state. And cancer
Mm,
cannot survive in an alkaline state. If you are constantly in fight or flight, you have high levels of cortisol, your pH balance is acidic.
hi. Yes,
So
yes,
your
yes.
breath work brings you into an alkaline state. Cancer cannot exist there. Most illnesses
I've heard of
cannot
that.
exist there. So your breath is literally the key to your health. You can
Yes.
breathe yourself into health and wellness. And this is, it helps with your blood pressure, it helps with your heart, it helps with so many different things. And
With
doing
the
that slow
mind,
chakra is,
body, and heart. It helps with the mind,
mhm,
body, and heart.
yeah, all the things.
And can you let us know where we can find you? Where can, because I did suggest, and hopefully you're having one pretty soon, which is an online course.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I will. I am going to plan that for October. So that will be my Breath Nectar workshop, which is a deep dive into breath work. I go a little bit more into different techniques that I find are the major issues for people. So I do go into that, but it's also more of an open conversation. So if there is a question that you have on breath work, I try to open space for that interaction. But I also do a guided breath work journey. And then just depending on what, the higher self tells me,
Yeah, man, I
will
got you.
depend on whether it's for like a bliss state, whether it's for relaxation, whether it's for release. It just depends. And sometimes I'll sing and sometimes I'll do sound bowls and sometimes I'll drum. It all depends on like what the group energy is needing. So you can find
You
me on
you you
Instagram at marie.heartnectar. That's also my tag on TikTok. And then also my tag here on YouTube. So
Yeah,
go follow my
I
channel.
put her information right down below, guys. Her website's on there. I'm actually she does normally do breath work on in person, but I'm
Hmm.
encouraging her to hopefully have some online because she actually was gonna have one, and that's kind of how we got started, right? That's kind of how I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what, hey, because I wanted to join one of your classes, but you're like, nah, not yet. I'm like, well, can you jump on and share your experience and what's helped you in your journey, and you have, and thank you very much, Marie. You are a blessing, a good friend as well, and like I said, a beautiful mother, and five. I thought three, but five. Okay.
Yep,
and we're
five of
just
them
and you're just
things.
getting. It's okay. It's okay. They're all there just to help you grow, and you're an awesome mom, man. That's one thing that I love because it's like I'm actually take some notes from her. 'Cause we're talking about healthy eating, right? Because that's like it
Mhm,
affects your energy. So, anyways,
mhm.
man, that's another whole podcast. I do want to thank everybody who did join us earlier today, who are listening to us, guys. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, I'm new to this journey, guys, and I want everybody else to be able to join me in this growth, in this evolution of understanding self. And here, guys, we help provide solutions to your spiritual awakening. And like I said, man, thanks again, Marie. I appreciate it. We'll talk later on.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, I want to hear your
Alright.
day, how it was yesterday. So, because
Yeah.
I didn't
Thank
hear
you
from
so
you.
much. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for everybody who stayed on and watched. And don't forget, in your nose for a count of four and out your mouth for a count of eight. Just doing it. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Marie. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.